What's up? We're back. Time for a recap, and I'm going to do a tier list to end off this series for season 26. It was a little bit of a disappointing season for me, but I still had a lot of fun with this team. There's a lot of Pokemon on this team that I really enjoyed playing with. I hope to draft them again in the future at some point. Not necessarily next season, but at some point I definitely would draft a lot of these Pokemon again. Really, really enjoyed playing with them. Before I get onto the individual Pokemon, I wanted to look at just the overall stats of my team and how everything performed. Iron Valiant, the very clear offensive carry for my team. 16 total kills. I brought it every week. The only Pokemon I brought every week. It has 11 uses. My next highest was 8, which is pretty crazy. Iron Valiant was actually number 2 on the leaderboard. So despite a below average season, Iron Valiant still performed really well, and it was super easy to bring every week. There's some other stuff that towards the bottom that did pretty well, like Arcanine, Diancie, Rotom. Several other things did pretty well. I think Lando and Bascalibur were a little bit underwhelming, I guess, offensively. I think they kind of took a back seat to the Iron Valiant. And I think that's not because of them inherently not being good. I think it's more of the team that I built. And I'll get some more details on that in a bit when I get to the specific tier list. But yeah, I really enjoyed this team. And I think if I had another season with this exact team, I would do a lot better. There were a few weeks there where I was getting the hang of the team, and I think there was also just some minor mistakes here and there that cost me a win, and it ended up losing on them. So, overall I really liked the team, and it was a lot of fun to build with a lot of these Pokemon. Let's get right into it. I forgot I already had this Iron Valiant here at S+. So yeah, Iron Valiant S+. This is actually my second take, about 5 or 6 minutes in to the first recording. OBS crashed, so I forgot to reset this tier list. Iron Valiant at S+. This Pokemon is so easy to bring every single week. With Booster Energy, it is incredibly easy to sweep. Incredibly easy to clean up kills. Even if it doesn't have fantastic matchups, I could just slap a Booster Energy on it and it cleans up. But with Moonblast and Close Combat, it's got a lot of options between for attacks. I think for me, Booster Energy was pretty much always what I ran. I did run Choice Specs and Life Orb a couple times. I think one time for each of those items. And the other 9 times I had Booster Energy on it. It's just really good with the Booster Energy. On top of that, I think I had a little bit of a struggle with speed on my team. Iron Valiant is fast, 116 speed, and Cyclizar is a 121, so it is fast, but it's not very offensive. It's really just going to be a more utility Pokemon. So it's not going to do a whole lot of damage and really threaten things most of the time. And then below Iron Valiant, my next fastest is Landorus, which is 101. So that's not all that fast. It's really solid for a powerful wall breaker like Landorus, but in terms of revenge killing things, this can be kind of tough. So that's one of the reasons why I felt like I probably had to run Booster Energy more than most people would with it. I think with a different team, maybe you could run some wall breaking sets a little bit more. But Iron Valiant, nonetheless, was still incredibly valuable. You can run Swords Dance, Calm Mind. I ran both multiple times and worked really well. Terra options are really good for it. Terra Electric was really valuable. Terra Ghost was very valuable. I didn't really run like a defensive like Terra Steel very much, even though Steel is incredible typing defensively for Iron Valiant to allow it to survive hits. I was running more offensive ones, Ghost to boost the Shadow Ball and Electric to boost either Thunderbolt or Thunder Punch. Both of those Terra types I was able to use to give Iron Valiant a better chance at KOing things that would normally have a pretty good matchup against it. I've got a couple of battles here to highlight Iron Valiant. Let me pull these over here. This first one is week 1 against Starlot. It was really nice here towards the end of the game, and I think made my over prediction on what Starlot did. This could have just swept the team almost, but it still did really well. I'll just play the replay here. Obviously, with boosted energy, gets that revenge kill on Weevil, and then Terra Ghost to guarantee the kill here on Typhlosion. Moonblast hits that Raging Bull super hard, and thanks to that special attack drop, I was able to survive that. And I went with Destiny Bond there, which unfortunately, he just went for a Thunderbolt. I was thinking he would go for a Thunderclap. It turns out Starlight didn't even have Thunderclap on his Raging Bolt this week. So I could have got the kill there, and then I don't know if it would have. I think the Shadow Ball would have killed Torkoal, and then anything would have killed the Walking Wake there. So really unfortunate that I did that, because I ended up losing. But the Iron Valiant was still incredibly good there to get a couple of kills. This is another big week for it right here as well. And this is actually a really interesting one. I did a special attack booster energy with agility. Because of the speed tiers kind of working out well. I don't remember what it was, but if I ran Modest, I still speed crept the next fastest thing on his team. And I think he also, if I remember correctly, he had a Ditto. So I feel like the booster energy boosting my special attack and then using agility to boost my speed is less difficult against a Ditto trying to copy me. So since it doesn't copy that special attack boost with Quark Drive. But because of that special attack boost, I was able to get the 1-hit KO on the Petrant there with Terra. And Iron Valiant comes in a little bit later. Here we go. Continues to do really good offensive work against this team, even after the booster energy is gone. Gets that kill there. And then survives Iron Head from Iron Boulder, gets a kill on Iron Boulder as well. And then I believe that's the end. Yeah, it does finish off the Mammoth Stomp, but it gets revenge kill here in the end. All right, well, those were two big ones and of course I lost both of those. And I think I was relying pretty heavily on it in these battles. Towards the end of the season, I know I said I needed to rely on Iron Valiant more, but I think I was finding ways to make use of the other members of my roster more. And Iron Valiant was still getting kills, obviously. It was on the kill leaderboard, so it was still doing well and getting kills. But a lot of those kills were like 2 at a time. Here I got 2 kills. Here it gets 2 kills. Here it gets 2 kills. I mean, that's the final 3 of the 4 weeks. It gets 2 kills. So nothing crazy or exceptional about it. It's just able to have a good matchup and clean things up pretty well. So yeah, there's Iron Valiant S+. This thing is so easy to build any team around. I think one thing that I made a mistake in the draft was trying to get these guys here that would have good synergies with Iron Valiant. I don't think you really need Pokemon that synergize with Iron Valiant. Like anything is good. Iron Valiant's going to fit on any team. You don't need to build around it that much. I think I should have focused on building these around each other, which I didn't really do. The Landorus and the Baxcalibur don't really fit with some of the other stuff I brought, and I think that's kind of why they were a bit of a struggle for me to be successful with those. All right, well, there's Iron Valiant. We're on to the round 2 and 3 wheel. I've got Landorus round 2, Galarian Slowking round 3. I'm going to put both of these in B tier. Now, I think these are both good Pokemon. Galarian Slowking especially On a really good team, Slowking could be an A, maybe even an S tier, maybe. In A tier for sure. Lando could be A tier. I'm not sure totally on that, but I think they both could be utilized better on another team that maybe they synergize better with. I really didn't want to get Landorus Incarnate when I drafted. Unfortunately, both of my plans got sniped the round or the pick 1 and 2 before me. I wanted either Garchomp or Landorus T. Both are very good glue Pokemon, have good offensive and defensive abilities, can set hazards, Lando T can pivot. And of course, Landorus Incarnate can set rocks and it can U-turn. But it doesn't have the bulk that Garchomp and Landorus T have. So it's not going to be able to switch in quite as well. It's definitely more frail. Obviously, it's a much better wall breaker, but it struggles a bit and doesn't really feel that glue spot that I was wanting from this. And honestly, I've been considering maybe I would have been better even drafting Gliscor. I don't know why all these Pokemon are 4 times weak to ice that I'm mentioning, but it's because I wanted a ground type, and those are the good ground types that typically go around this time. Gliscor honestly might have been better than Lando here for my team synergy wise. It gets both rocks and spikes. It can U-turn, and it's a much better defensive glue pivot than Lando is. So I think it might. I thought about it at the time, but I didn't really feel like it was worth picking this early. But I think now looking back on it, it probably would have been. It has a much better synergy with Glare and Slowking, so I think it would have been a better fit for my defensive core of the team. Glare and Slowking similarly kind of suffer from the same thing, and it didn't really fit on the team. It looks great with Iron Valiant, and Chili Reception is incredibly valuable to get things like Iron Valiant and Lando in safely, which is really good. But with the stuff I ended up drafting later, it didn't really fit in. Looking at the specific things that I was able to do with him, Landorus was a really solid wall breaker and utility. It kind of took a back role to some of the other stuff. So let's pull up a Lando replay here. This is the only Lando replay I've got. And it didn't really even get hardly any kills this game, but it did a really good job threatening out the defensive core well. We're in a sub set with Smackdown. So that threatens Metagross, Garchomp, Corviknight, and Pheasantipede really well. So it was really nice in this matchup. And it definitely caused Luke up a lot of difficulty. Later on in the season, I kind of just used Lando. I would wall break with it here and there. Didn't get a whole lot of kills, but it did a pretty good job of weakening things. So it was pretty solid. It was a sub here against the Garchomp after a Draco Meteor, so I can stay safe behind the sub. And then the Smackdown here threatens this Corviknight out. Able to get a lot of damage in on this Dark right here since I'm safe behind a substitute. Big damage in on it. And I think that's the last of the Lando in this battle, really. Oh, I lied. There's another spot with Lando right here. So able to do a little bit more wall breaking and break this Pheasantipede, which is really helpful for Iron Valiant, because that's one of the things that gives Iron Valiant some trouble on this team. Yeah, that's definitely the last of the Lando there. So yeah, Lando was pretty solid. A B tier, it was able to wall break decently, but it wasn't super exciting or fun. It wasn't super versatile. I mean, I could run Life Orb or Sub Leftovers or Choice Scarf. That's really all I found useful. And then I could set hazards and pivot or go with some attacks, but that's about all it really did super well. Slowking was nice. with as a defensive check. And that's really what I use Galarian Slowking with. I didn't really have much synergies with my team, but its defensive stat line is just so nice. And with Regenerator and Chilly Reception, it's a really good way to pivot in. So I just wanted to highlight this right here. These attacks it's able to tank from this Walking Wake. First turn, it takes a Sun Boosted Hydro Steam. And then this turn, a Terra Dragon Draco Meteor. It loses that at 2%. Just wanted to point that how absurd that is. That's an Assault Vest Galarian Slowking, and I don't think it's max. I think it's even a modest one or quiet one with a good bit of special attack investment on it to strengthen the Sludge Bomb and whatever else I'm attacking with. So yeah, Galarian Slowking was solid. It pivoted in when I needed it to against strong special attackers. Yeah, on to the next wheel pick. We've got Baxcalibur and Rotom Wash. So I'm going to put Baxcalibur right here. Similar scenario as those first two in the B tier. Kind of suffered the same thing, you know. Synergies look really nice with those. It's a nice wall breaker, nice possible setup sweeper. And the possibility of a Chilly Reception from Galarian Slowking being able to boost Baxcalibur's defense to allow it some more setup opportunities seems really cool. But it never really had fantastic matchups. It's kind of difficult to set up. It requires a lot of support. And I think most of the time I was just using Iron Valiant instead and supporting Iron Valiant, which requires a lot less support than Baxcalibur does. And so I think that's why it kind of just took a back seat. Sometimes when it had good defensive matchups against certain things, I would use it, and it worked well in those scenarios. But it was only when it had those good matchups that I found it very useful. Here's a couple battles. I've got 2 battles to showcase this Baxcalibur, and actually let me go through the previous turn to watch this switch in to Ogerpon. This is a physically bulky Baxcalibur. That's a neutral Ivy Cudgel from Ogerpon Hearthflame. Takes 34% from that, which is pretty crazy. How well it's able to take that. This thing's physical bulk stats are really nice, and its attack is so absurdly high that it doesn't really matter that much if you drop some of its attack to give it some bulk. I got a Dragon Dance here, so now I outspeed the Ogerpon and Glaive Rush, 1-hit KO. It's bulky enough to survive the Ivy Cudgel. 2 Ivy Cudgels easily. It possibly would die on a third one. And then still powerful enough for a Glaive Rush to 1-hit KO Ogerpon. So, Baxcalibur was really helpful in scenarios like that. This is the other one where it was kind of similar. I think I had physical bulk on it again for something else that I don't think he even brought, but I utilized it here as a wall breaker against this Tornadus, which is really helpful. I had a lot of difficulty with this Tornadus earlier in the game. He was able to break it here. And let me skip ahead a little bit to Regieleki. Has a really nice matchup on Regieleki as well. It doesn't really take much damage, so I was able to threaten it out here, and I think I actually got the kill on it, if I remember correctly. Yeah, even behind the screens, +1 gets that 1-hit KO on Regieleki. And able to do a ton of damage to Cleaver with the neutral Glaive Rush even behind that screen. So very, very nice. I think it just maybe with support more focused on it, it could be really good. But it was only just kind of situational for me. The other pick with this Baxcalibur on the wheel was Rotom Wash. Rotom, I'm going to put Rotom in A tier. It was a really core piece of my defensive, really important piece of my defensive core. Rotom was a very valuable pivot. I liked having the options to run offensive and defensive sets with it. Being able to use Thunderwave and Will-O-Wisp well, plus pivoting with Volt Switch, plus having the option of a Choice Scarf or a Nasty Plot for wall breaking. It was really good in those scenarios. So here's one against Sean. This Rotom was just a defensive pivot, but he had a lot of difficulty killing it. Obviously, Latios and Brambleghast beat it, but I was able to get those crippled and killed early on. So I got the burn on Latios to chip it down, and we will pivot out here, and it just is sitting in there taking hits from stuff like Samurott pretty easily. Let's skip ahead. And we're back here, switching into Tinkaton easily. And that Miss Will-O-Wisp, man, the only complaint that I have about Rotom Wash is the accuracy on its moves. The number of times that I've missed Hydro Pump and Thunder Wave and Will-O-Wisp this season have been crazy. I missed the Will-O-Wisp here. It's not that high stakes against this Tinkaton, because it would help, of course, but it's not super high stakes because it still sits in on this Tinkaton easily. But when it misses a Hydro Pump against a Mamoswine that, in my battle against Art on turn 2 misses the Hydro Pump, and the Mamoswine has a Focus Sash, so it doesn't break activate the Focus Sash, and that Mamoswine is one of the 2 remaining Pokemon at the end of the game, still with the Focus Sash intact, and he's able to win that with 1 Pokemon remaining. Missing that Hydro Pump at the beginning is huge. It has a huge impact on the battle. Or later on, I don't think I show him. I've got those clips ready for this, but I missed a Thunder Wave against a Tornadus T. Actually, in the battle I just showed, where Baxcalibur later killed the Tornadus T. One of the reasons I had so much difficulty, I couldn't hit the Thunder Wave on. I missed it. And then he brings in Ursa Luna Blood Moon, and I miss a Hydro Pump on that. So it was really the only complaint I have about this Rotom is the accuracy on its moves. If I'm using Volt Switch, Discharge, and Thunderbolt, it's great though. Again, yeah, burn is huge here against this. I mean, once Latias and Brambleghast are dead, this Rotom can kind of just sit in here and spam attack, spam Will-O-Wisp, spam Volt Switch, spam Hydro Pump pretty safely. Skip ahead. Rotom comes back in here against the Tinkaton. Again, super easy matchup against Tinkaton. It's Tinkaton and Great Tusk now, so it just sits in on him pretty safely. That's the rest of Rotom on that clip. And then this one was a little bit different. So rather than a defensive pivot, this Rotom is functioning as a wall breaker with Nasty Plot. It looks really good. I think he even had some other stuff. Zigludo had some other stuff on his team that Rotom has good matchups on. But really good matchup against his defensive core of Garganacl, Ting-Lu, Azumarill, and Toxapex. Able to hit all of them super effectively. Of course, Garganacl can Terra, but outside of that, it still hits all of them super effectively. And then the Meowscarada and Latios are absolutely crippled by a Thunder Wave. So if he switches either of those 2 into a Thunder Wave, they get crippled, and it's huge for Rotom. So that's exactly what happens here. I get a Thunder Wave on Latios, and bring Rotom back in here. I'm trying to get set up against Team Lu, but he keeps whirlwinding me out. Here I just end up straight up attacking it with Hydro Pump. I got really lucky here with that Misruination, able to keep Rotom healthier than I otherwise would. Skip ahead to some more Rotom Wash. Again, here, I guess this Garganacl is going to be able to wall break really well with Nasty Plot. I'm a little weak to the Salt Cure, which is a little bit difficult. I actually expected him to Terra there. That's why I wasn't worried about missing with Hydro Pump. He was Terra Water on Garganacl, and he hadn't Terra'd yet. He ends up Terraing later with the Toxapex, but that's why I went for it. I figured he'd expect me to Hydro Pump, and he knows that would kill, and he would Terra Water so that I don't kill. But he didn't, which had me a little confused. I think because I was running a modest Rotom Wash with a lot of special attack investment, maybe he was doing calcs with a lot less damage happening there. So that's the only thing I can think of. And I'll skip ahead here. I'm actually able to get a Wish Pass to Rotom from the Jirachi, which is huge. And then it also cleans up here against the Toxapex. And just nasty plot and get the kill with Thunderbolt. So yeah, Rotom was really nice. It was a core piece of my team and really used it a lot. It got my second most uses behind Iron Valiant. It was really, really valuable pivot, offensive and defensive options. Really liked it. Happy with Rotom in the A tier. Next up on the next wheel pick, the round 6 and 7 wheel, I went with Mandibuzz and Jirachi. So I've drafted Mandibuzz a lot, and I'm going to have to put it in C tier. I think I'm kind of getting tired of Mandibuzz, honestly, having drafted it so many times. It's kind of passive, I think, is the difficulty, and predictable, I guess. It has a few options, like you're pretty much always going to run Foul Play and Roost. And then Defog if you need removal. And then, I mean, it leaves you one more slot with U-Turn, Toxic, Whirlwind, Iron Defense. Like, it gives you some options, but it's still kind of passive. It's not going to be doing much damage unless you use Foul Play. No, Foul Play is great. It prevents a lot of Swords Dance and Dragon Dance sweepers and wall breakers from trying to set up and break Mandibuzz that way. But that's really the only way Mandibuzz can do any damage at all. The only other thing it can do is U-turn out, which is okay, but I feel like I needed Mandibuzz as a defensive check to stuff, and I would just click foul play. It was fine. Mandibuzz is fine. I don't hate it. I think maybe my complaint is more that it's boring. It didn't really give me any options to do something interesting with it and fun with it and unique. It was just boring. It came in, did the same thing every time, and that was it. So I think that's really the only complaint. Like, its typing is great. Dark Flying is really great. It's got phenomenal bulk, physical and special, so you can check physical or special attackers. I think I'm just putting it in C tier just because it doesn't have a whole lot of versatility. It's going to come in, tank a hit, and then you turn out or foul play and get the damage. That's about all it's really going to do. The other one with it, Jirachi, is the total opposite. Jirachi is incredibly versatile. It has a ton of options. I'm putting it in B tier. It was solid. The round 7 pick, I'm happy with Jirachi. Solid steel type. You can run bulky sets. You can run offensive sets. I ran Scarf sometimes. I ran bulky stuff sometimes. So Jirachi was really nice. I didn't really utilize any setup sweeper sets. I did have a Scarf set that was really useful with spamming Iron Head for flinch hacks against Latios, which was very nice. But the most value I got from Jirachi was typically being a support. The one I guess there's some downsides to Jirachi. Like, none of its stats are exceptional. They're all just pretty good. But I think that still, leads it to have a lot of versatility. The biggest problem I had with Jirachi and why I don't put it in A tier is because it often struggled with 4-move slot syndrome, I think. The offensive sets where I was running a choice Scarf, that wasn't really a problem. But a lot of the defensive supporting sets, I had some difficulty choosing the moves. If I run screens, I'm limited on healing and damaging moves. And I wanted to often run a lot of different moves on it. So, sometimes I had to give up running Wish or Protect, or I had to give up on running a coverage move or something that I wanted. That's really the only complaint that I have about Jirachi. Here's a highlight with Jirachi. This is actually that Latios flinch hack. This actually was not screens, if I remember, or not a scarf, if I remember right. I said scarf a minute ago. I think that must have been against the Latios doing a similar thing. But Flint, it's already paralyzed from the Rotom, which we showed earlier, actually. And the Iron Head flinches are able to take it out. And it's a really good, nice utility here to set up the win condition for Rotom. Iron Head here just to see what he's going to do. He's going to stockpile. Encored him into that stockpile, which makes it totally free for me to do anything. I don't have a psychic move on this Jirachi, so I wish and pass it to Rotom, who was very low health, and now it's almost full. So Rotom's able to just set up a couple nasty plots and win the game from there. So really nice support option there with Jirachi. Also, really nice supporting in this this battle as well. Doom Desire is really nice. That's the main support that it provided in this battle, was the Doom Desire, and it's able to get the kill there against the Ursa Luna after Sinishe hits a Matcha Gotcha. Yep, able to finish off that kill, which is really helpful. I think that's about all the Jirachi does here. Yeah, it didn't come back into play until later. I don't think it actually came back at all. So yeah, Jirachi was really nice. Gets a lot of options like Stealth Rocks, Screens, Encore, Thunder Wave. It really was a great versatile pick, and I really liked building with it. It gave me a lot of options. Next up, we've got Cyclizar and Lycanroc Dusk. So Cyclizar was okay. I only used it a couple, like 3 times, I think. 3 times, yeah. So I didn't use it a lot. It was okay. Towards the end of the season, I was starting to like it better as a hazard remover than Mandibuzz because it's fast, and I like the utility options it provides a little better than Mandibuzz. Of course, it gets still rapid spin, but it gets knockoff. And Draco Meteor actually does decent damage against neutral targets if they're special defense, as long as they're not like a special defensive wall or something, or if it's resistant to it or immune. So it's pretty nice. I'm gonna put it in C tier next to Mandibuzz. It was growing on me a little bit towards the end of the season, but I still I didn't really feel great about it. Both of my hazard removers there in the C tier, but in both cases, kind of forced to take both of them because I needed hazard removal. I didn't have, I got Mandibuzz round 6 and then Cyclizar round 8. I didn't have hazard removal, so I desperately needed it at that point. They did fine for hazard removal. Cyclizar, I think, was more fun to build with the Mandibuzz, especially with this highlight I'm about to pull up here against Cake. This is the only really interesting thing I did with Cyclizar. This is a choice band Cyclizar. I go Terra Normal, get a 1-hit KO on the Rotom Heat, which is crazy. And then I bring it back in. Let's see where it is. Here we go. I did actually expect him to Will-O-Wisp. I had Facade on the Cyclizar, so I expected the Will-O-Wisp and was going to click Facade there, which actually is stronger than Double Edge. But yeah, gets the kill there. Either way, whether he gets that or not. Unfortunately, he had a Terra Ghost Enamorus, and I didn't have knockoff on this Cyclizar, so I ended up losing this game to that Enamorus setting up, which is really unfortunate. If I had that knockoff. This Cyclizar set is crazy good against Cake's team, and I'm really happy that it worked. I just wish I could have won. It would have been a lot better. So yeah, Cyclizar was pretty cool. It has some niche offensive uses like that match, which I can't say the same about Mandibuzz, but at least both of them were decent hazard removers. Cyclizar also has a really nice shout with Galarian Slowking. The two of them do have really nice synergy together, with both having Regenerator. Galarian Slowking can take the Fairy and Fighting moves that are super effective on Cyclizar, so that's really nice. But that's about it. The rest of my team wasn't really built around those two, but there's still kind of nice synergies. Next up is Lycanroc. So I should put Diancie here because that was a trade. Next up is Lycanroc. I'm putting Lycanroc in D tier. And now this isn't necessarily Lycanroc on its own being a D tier Pokemon. Maybe on another team it could have been better. But for me this season, it was a D tier. I traded it just a few weeks into the season. I just couldn't find a use for it. And I'm very glad I did because I traded for Diancie, which was incredibly valuable for me. So I don't know. I couldn't really. I think the Lycanroc maybe had a little too much overlap with Hisuian Arcanine as an offensive rock type. And I liked the Arcanine a little bit better because it has a better defensive profile. Even though it is super weak to water and ground, it still is able to take some attacks, like some resisted attacks or neutral attacks. And Lycanroc is incredibly frail. Arcanine at least has okay defensive stats. The other one I picked, or actually, no, that was Cyclizar and Lycanroc were in the same wheel. So that's the wheel 8 and 9, or round 8 and 9 wheel. The round 10 to 11 wheel was Sinistcha and Hisuian Arcanine. I'm going to put both of these guys in A tier. They were very valuable pieces to my team. Sinistcha was a really good defensive piece of my team. Had a really nice synergy with Rotom. Synergized really well with the Jirachi as well. And honestly, just some of the others like Galarian Slowking. A lot of weaknesses to Dark, though, so that was something I kind of struggled with early on in the season until I made some trades and got both Crocodile and Diancie helped me out with that a bit. Sinistcha was really helpful. Gets a lot of good setup options. Like, people have to respect that setup with the potential of Calm Mind and Strength Sap. And there were several times people ran Clear Amulet for both Sinistcha Strength Sap and Crocodile's Intimidate. So forcing them to run that item instead of something else was valuable. Sinistcha had a couple of really good battles here. So here's the first one against Sean. In Trick Room, it's able to do really well. And I showed this battle with Rotom, and there was a lot of Sinistcha going on. Basically, Rotom and Sinistcha pivoting back and forth between each other, as you see right there. Let's skip ahead to Sinistcha. And I misplayed a little bit by bringing in that Cyclizar. I specifically had this Sinistcha for Bramblegast. I let him clear away the hazards I had, which I don't know why I did that. It was a misplay on my end. I was running itemless Sinistcha, so Poltergeist wouldn't be able to hit Sinistcha, and I'm immune to Rapid Spin, so I can Spin Block, which is very nice to have. Gets the Shadow Ball, gets the kill. And now at this point, Sinistcha looks really good against the team. Galarian Zapdos is really the only thing that can hit it for much, so he has a really tough time switching into this Sinistcha and breaking the Sinistcha. Does get paralyzed here, but it's still really good matchups with Strength Sap and Machagacha. Just totally not a problem at all for it to sit in on these Pokemon and spam those moves. Of course, Encore does make it a little tougher, but it's able to. I'm able to pivot around. And it tanks that Ice Spinner from Great Tusk, only does 37%. And heals up basically like nothing happened and gets the kill. All right. And then on to this one. Sinistcha had a really good matchup here. Once Archaludon was dead, it had a really good matchup against a lot of these Pokemon. So Ursaluna can't hit it super effectively once I Terra Grass, which I do here in a minute. Overquill can, but it's a defensive Overquill. And nothing on this team wants to take on Machagacha. This is a really scary setup from Ursaluna here. He went Crunch and used my Colbur Berry. I had to Terra Grass be able to live this next one, and take out the Ursaluna eventually. Takes that body slam really decently well. And man, Machagacha puts this thing down real low health, which is huge. The burn is a little bit unfortunate. I guess it doesn't really matter because our revenge kill was something faster anyway with the Scarf Rotom. And then we come back to Sinistcha late game too. It has a really nice, really easy pivot into Barraskewda and Iron Treads. So, and Machagacha is really nice against this. I didn't get a burn on Overquill, but it's still pretty dangerous to Overquill if I do. So it's tougher to switch in. Let's see, we'll get to another Sinistcha move here. Unfortunately, not Ghost type anymore to Spin Block, but tanks that Ice Spinner. That only takes 35% from a super effective Ice Spinner. Able to spam Machagacha and Strength Sap between the remaining Pokemon, and it's just incredibly hard for him to kill. I think that's the last that we see it in that battle. So yeah, Sinistcha is really nice. A lot of options with setup choices or defensive choices. I almost ran a Rest Sleep Talk set. That one was a really cool one that I didn't end up bringing, but that was pretty cool. And then I almost ran Curse as well. It gets other stuff like Nightshade. Nightshade is what I was thinking. If I had to go look it up, it gets other stuff like Nightshade, which is really helpful. Stuff like Stun Spore, really nice, and being able to use Hex with Stun Spore or with the burns from Machagacha synergize with itself just really nicely. So yeah, Sinistcha was a really nice piece of this team. Defensively, fit in really well. Assuming Arcanine was a really nice piece of this team offensively. I only brought Arcanine 3 times, but the times that I brought it were incredibly impactful. I'm going to show two of those here. It was really nice as a revenge killer with a Scarf, and also as a setup sweeper with Trailblaze. The other battle I brought Arcanine in was against Starlot week 1, and it just missed a head smash, which would have killed. Which, again, if I didn't miss that, I might have won that game. But that one is the only time where Arcanine wasn't a big impact on the battle. So I put some decent special defense bulk on this Arcanine here, so it's able to take that Dark Pulse decently well. Gets a kill on Garchomp. Basically, every time Arcanine comes in, it gets a kill. And we'll skip forward to where the Arcanine is here. Here we go. Gets a kill here on Corviknight. Yep. And again here, survives the Ice Beam from Darkrai, gets the kill. Every time this Arcanine came in, it got a kill, which was really, really valuable. And then here, a really nice position for it. It hits everything except for this Dragonite super effectively with Stab. So, and this Dragonite's half health, so it was able, in its Choice Band, I knew its Choice Band had already locked in Extreme Speed, so I was going for the Flame Charges, and with these Flame Charges, it's able to set up and sweep. Gets that hit, finish it off. Head Smash, thankfully, doesn't miss this time. And then finishes it off with a couple of Flare Blitzes. So yeah, that Arcanine was really nice. I really like Arcanine as a situational bring, really nice with a Choice Band or Choice Scarf or that setup set there. Looks really nice. It gets some other utility stuff like Stealth Rocks and Will-O-Wisp and Morning Sun, but I didn't really utilize those. I really just utilized it offensively. Sometimes it just has really nice offensive matchups, and it's just worth bringing. Next up, my final pick of the draft was Cloyster. I'm putting Cloyster in F tier. This thing sucks, man. It's so bad. I brought it once this season, I think, and it just got one-hit KO'd by a Draco Meteor from Garchomp. I should have brought a Focus Sash on it, but still, it got one-hit KO'd by Garchomp. And I don't know. I tried so many times to find opportunities for this to fit on the team, and it just didn't. Shell Smash seems like it would be really threatening, but it's so hard to pull off. Its special defense sucks. You hit it with any special attack that it doesn't resist, and it's dead. Any neutral special attack, it dies. And there's a lot of bulky steel types and bulky water types that aren't particularly gonna be weak. Like, as long as they're not super weak to drill run or rock blast, then you're fine and can revenge kill it pretty easily. And it's incredibly hard to find opportunities for Cloyster to set up, I found this season. And utility-wise, it doesn't get rapid spin anymore, so it can't even do that. I drafted it because it looks like a possible strong setup sweeper that people have to prepare for. And, also gets access to spikes and toxic spikes. And I didn't have anything that could set spikes, so I figured it'd be worth grabbing. Unfortunately, it just didn't really bring any value to my team. And on a different team, I don't know if Cloyster would be any better. I think Lycanroc could be a lot better on a different team. I think Lando and Baxcalibur could be a lot better on a different team. I don't think Cloyster really would. So yeah, I'm leaving that in F tier. My next two Pokemon, I've got Diancie and Crocodile. Both of these were trades I made. Diancie I made first for the Lycanroc, and Diancie was incredibly valuable for my team. It was huge in synergizing with the Rotom and Sinistcha. I think really the defensive core of my team was Diancie, Rotom, and Sinistcha. It was really valuable. Both of these guys gave me really important resistances to dark. I had a lot of dark weaknesses with Sinistcha, Galarian Slowking, and Jirachi. A lot of my core defensive Pokemon weak to dark. So it really helped patch that up. Both of these guys really helped patch that up really well. Of course, Iron Valiant double resist dark, but I don't usually want to switch it in multiple times through a game. I want to utilize that booster energy when it's a good position for it to do so. So getting these two was really helpful. Mandibuzz, of course, does resist dark, but it doesn't usually do much back to them. So it was kind of difficult for Mandibuzz to check dark types because if they have coverage or if they have setup moves, Mandibuzz kind of just sits there and dies. Whereas Crocodile and Diancie at least have good offensive stats that they can either hit with a strong stab move or they've got other stuff. Crocodile's got Taunt. Diancie's got things like Trick Room, Encore, stuff like that. That's really good. This Crocodile, I'm going to put in B tier. It was pretty solid. I'm pretty happy with it. Actually, I'm going to put it in C tier. I didn't use it a ton. I think it was still pretty solid overall. I think I like it better than Mandibuzz as a dark type, but it wasn't super impactful for my team. I only brought it twice, and it was decent when I brought it. I think I like it better than Mandibuzz because it has better options. Knockoff and Earthquake are going to hit hard on most neutral opponents. And, it's got options to run offensive or defensive or some kind of split spread, So I like it, but I think it's still a C tier because it didn't have a huge impact on my team. I only brought it twice, and it was okay. It did its job, but it wasn't huge or anything. And Diancie, I am going to put Diancie in S tier. This thing was incredibly good for considering, of course, if I drafted Diancie round 1, I'm not going to put it in S tier. I'm going to put it in probably C tier or B tier. It's still pretty high. I think Diancie is incredibly undervalued by a lot of people. It was very, very strong for me this season. I think part of it was I just needed exactly Diancie on my team to fill all the roles that I needed, honestly. But I think a lot of people undervalue it and underprepare for it. It was able to have really huge impacts in a lot of games. And the fact that I got it undrafted was huge. I probably wouldn't draft Diancie as your only fairy. It's kind of difficult sometimes because it has some weaknesses, like it's weak to ground and water. because of the rock typing. And those are very common moves. Of course, it's also weak to grass and neutral to fighting. So if you've got plenty of other stuff to take fighting moves, then you'll be fine with it. Like I've got Sinistcha, I've got Lando, I've got Galarian Slowking, I've got Iron Valiant, so I'm fine against fighting moves. I don't really need the Diancie there. And water and rock, that's fine. Or water and ground weakness, that's fine. I've got plenty of other things. Like I've got the Rotom and Sinistcha. They handle both of those moves very easily. Again, most things that are going to be spamming them, they're fine. So Diancie's rock weakness didn't really impact me because of the other things I already had on my draft. But in some other drafts, I could definitely see it having difficulty because of that. So I definitely like Diancie as a secondary fairy. So like if you get an offensive fairy like Iron Valiant or Enamorus, something like that that's going to go early, that's not going to be pivoting into most dragons like a defensive fairy would. Diancie can kind of fill that role as a low tier, back half of the draft pick. It has a lot of good options for utility. It gets Stealth Rocks, it gets Spikes. You can Trick Room if you've got other things on your team, which I do. Sinistcha, Slowking, even Rotom or Arcanine, because they're kind of 80s to 90s speed. That Trick Room could come in handy there. So yeah, Diancie gets a lot of options. It can run a lot of fun stuff. And that's, I think, one of the big reasons why I'm putting it in S tiers, because a lot of the fun move sets that I can build with it, there's a lot of options. Red Card was cool. Custat Berry is really cool for it. You can have Endure and Endeavor with a Custat Berry, or, not even Endeavor, just Endure with a Custat Berry and, hit an attack or set up hazards. Diancie gets a few coverage options, not a ton. Moonblast and Diamond Storm are going to hit a lot of things hard, and the Diamond Storm is really nice against fire types that normally are going to check fairies. So it helps there. And then, of course, Body Press and Earth Power help against the steel types that are going to check fairies. So and Poison type, Earth Power for the Poison type. So it gets good coverage for him, and it's just a lot of fun to build with. It gives a lot of options, a lot of versatility. So yeah, here's one of the big ones for Diancie. This one was more as a support, setting up a lot of hazards here. I got lucky with that paralysis against Latios for sure. Was able to get up rocks, able to get up spikes as well on this turn. And then I switch out, and Diancie comes back in later here. Again, lucky against that Ruination. I think Ludo's having some bad luck this game. But I Terra Fairy, survive the liquidation, get spikes. Custat Berry gets another layer of spikes. Diancie single-handedly got up Stealth Rocks and 3 layers of spikes, which was hugely valuable this game. It got a lot of chip damage. This Meowscarada died next time it switched in. Azumarill died next time it switched in. And then it also made the Garganacl and Toxapex take a lot of damage when they switched in as well. So it was really valuable there. The other big one with Diancie is right here against Joey. So this basically totally set up this Arcanine for the sweep. The only things that Arcanine doesn't hit super effectively are Glimmora and Mew. And they're both able to take the hits from Arcanine decently. So I need to break those two. And Dragonite is Terra Normal. So if he Terra's Normal, which he did in this fight, I need to weaken that as well for Arcanine. So that's exactly what Diancie does. I get Trick Room up, and then I hit a Meteor Beam to 1-hit KO the Mew. And then on this next turn, Terra Fairy to avoid an Earthquake, getting a 1-hit KO on me. Still under Trick Room, keep spamming Moonblast. He is forced to switch into Glimmora, and it dies. And now Dragonite is half health. Mew and Glimmora are dead, and Arcanine is set up perfectly for that sweep that we saw just a minute ago. So yeah, Diancie did a lot of stuff like that, just having really fun, cool sets, and I really enjoyed playing with it. Yeah, that Diancie was a huge impact on my team. I'm really glad I got it. Again, I'm only putting it at S tier because because it was undrafted and I got it from a pool trade. If I had drafted it, top few rounds, it'd be a little bit lower. That's kind of what you expect from a top tier Pokemon. But for a Pokemon that went undrafted, I'll put it in S tier, as big as an impact as it had on my team. All right, well, that is it. That's actually a perfectly even distribution. I promise I did not plan that. That is a perfect bell curve right there, centered around B tier. I think a B tier average is about right for this team as a whole. I really enjoyed building with it. A lot of these in the top half, especially, I really enjoyed building with them and finding cool, fun sets to build. I think the struggle with this team was I wasn't really able to get the glue Pokemon early on like I really intended to. Iron Valiant is so versatile. Being able to get a couple of glue Pokemon, round 2, 3, 4 would be huge. But it just didn't happen. Those things that I wanted got taken, and I had to pivot to a different strategy and get some powerful wall breakers instead. And I think they still work pretty well. The stats don't show a whole lot, but I think Landweb Excalibur was still valuable. They just weren't. They just had to take a backseat to the Iron Valiant and some of the more core defensive pieces of my team. Another struggle that I think I had, again, which I mentioned before in this video, was the speed. I traded away the Lycanroc, which was one thing that helped, but Iron Valiant was really my only good fast Pokemon. Cycles are not going to be able to threaten things very well, even though it is fast. So that's definitely a struggle. I think that's something that could have been improved on this team. And also, I think if I just didn't have the Cloyster and Lycanroc to begin with, if I had Crocodile and Diancie in those spots to begin with, I think things could have gone differently in those first few battles. I think they could have come in handy. It's hard to say, but I think they would have been more impactful than the Cloyster and the Lycanroc were. I may or may not have brought them, so it's speculation. But I really liked building with this final team that I got, and it was fun. It was fun. I'm hoping next season that I don't get the number 1 overall pick. Man, every season I get a top 3 or bottom 3 pick. It happens a lot. I really don't like the wheel picks very much because it makes my draft feel a little lopsided and uneven, I guess. And I definitely felt that a bit this season. I much prefer to get something more balanced and evenly spread throughout, something like towards the middle of the draft. But it didn't work out this season. We'll see next season how that one goes. There's the final tier list. I had a lot of fun this season, especially in the back half, which makes sense because those first 4 games were really rough. Ignoring those first 4 games, I was 5-2. After those first 4 losses, I went 5-2. That's pretty solid. After those first 4, I did pretty well. I think there was a combination of bad luck and some changes I had to make, and just some minor errors on my end. So yeah, hopefully next season goes better. I don't know if I'm going to do videos next season. We'll see how I feel about it. It is very time consuming. Recording the video for one, and then editing the video is very time consuming as well. So I don't know. It takes up a lot of time. So we'll see if I continue it next season. Maybe do something a little shorter. Of course, recording during the battle, that's easy because I'm going to be battling anyway. So I could do that. But yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, that is it for season 26. I had a lot of fun this season. And really enjoyed this team. It was a lot of fun to build with. I hope to get something fun next season. Hopefully do some different things. There's some Pokemon that I've been really wanting to use. So hopefully we will see that happen next season. We'll see. I will possibly see you guys in season 27.